So this show is called Love Music More. This last segment is called Love Music Why. And this is a moment just to talk about why you love music, why you keep showing up for it, why you don't quit.
I mean, for me, I think it's just really been one of the few things I'm good at. Like I don't know, that's the first thought that came to mind. I might have something deeper to say, but that's my first initial thought.
I mean, for me, music is about community. It almost has like a tribal power for me, and it makes me feel things very deeply that are not necessarily things that could be expressed with regular language. Like the other day, I put on Intervisions after we were finished with the session, and a few of us were having glasses of wine, and it felt very powerful to be with the people that I love, listening to music that makes me feel things deeply, and that has inspired me since I've been a kid. I love that record. It just has this power over your life. It has the power to change your life. Some people have described it to me, and this is not so much for me, is they say it's like drugs without the bad stuff, without the repercussions. But for me, it's actually more of a bonding experience, a bonding social experience. It bonds you to the people who made the music and their intentions. It bonds you to each other. The camaraderie in the studio is insane. I mean, you end up loving people because you're deeply intimate with them for sometimes very short periods of time, but those connections, because the music lives, last so long. Like, we're talking about a record made in the 70s, but like there's records I've made where when I listen to them, I feel a lot. And I feel like it changes the universe. Like, I go on a bike ride and I put in my AirPods and I put in a certain record and the whole landscape changes. And I feel connected to people. So for me, it's a lot about connection. It's also a lot about deepness. There's something very mysterious and deep about the universe. And it's almost religious that music allows me to access. And I hope I feel like it makes people's lives, a lot of people's lives, it makes them much better. And the hard times, it can actually help you like get through hard times, but it also enhances the great times, your parties. Like the other day,
Hmm.
you're hanging out with all these people. You don't even, I barely knew them, but I kind of loved them. And the music kind of bonds us. It's like modern church or something. For me, I think it's just a very, very powerful medium that goes way beyond language. And like, everyone says, oh, social media connects us all. And it does,
Hmm.
but it also pulls us apart. Like we're
Mm.
always fighting. And I know people fight about music, but in the end, like if you go see a big concert and everyone's singing along, you look around, you're like, there's 50,000 people feeling something communal. And I think that's extremely powerful. And I think that is something that's primordial built into us and that we can access. And we're so lucky that we have the tools to access that kind of heavy emotion. Because, life can be tricky. And it's so nice to have things that make our lives so much better. I'm happy to be part of it. I think it's a noble mission to create great art and to try to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's when I do music, it's like connecting to something bigger than myself because a lot of the times when I'm coming up with melodies and stuff, like I don't really know where it comes from because I don't know much about music theory. And so it's kind of like just comes from, you know, somewhere.
Bob Dylan said he didn't know where any of those, like, those insane songs he wrote came. He was like, I don't know how that, I couldn't write them now. They just came through me. It turns you into a
Yeah.
conduit, but also, like, one of the things that I always look at, it's kind of like, I always call it a flowing river. Like, we're on the boat for a little while, we're music makers right now, and then there'll be the next people on the boat, and, like, you can throw some notes to the next people, but it's like, it's going to keep going and it's bigger than us and it's more powerful than us and it's just going to keep evolving and it's one of the best parts of being alive for me.
I think that, yeah, coming back to like, why do I actually do music? Because I don't, I've never really thought about it. I think it's just because I grew up and it's sort of like I just kind of am a musician. Like I've really been doing music ever since I was a baby because my dad gave me a ukulele because I'm part Hawaiian. And so it just is kind of who I am. I can't imagine a life without music. I kind of had that when I was a pastry chef and I didn't really play music that much. And it just it's like I just can't be like that. Like that's just not the kind of person that I am. I'm just a musician. So I think I'm pretty sure I'll always do music just because I always have been.
You'll always do music. It's like that Miles Davis thing. That interviewer asked him, was like, would you do music if you weren't getting paid for it? And Miles is like, yeah, I'm a musician.
Yeah,
Done.
exactly. Like
You are
I
a
would write
musician.
songs even if no one listens, you know,
It's
because it's
part of,
like I do. I write songs and I'm like, no one will ever hear that song, but it's like it made me feel good I guess the lyric writing is sort of a way, especially if I'm going through a hard time, it's very therapeutic to just put it on paper, and it's like I get to turn this negative experience into something really beautiful, which is a song. And it's
Yeah.
like I get to play it, and I get to, if I play it in front of people, I guess that I'm getting to express how I feel. I didn't used to be very much of a talker, and I didn't really share a lot of myself with people, so I guess that it's a comfortable way for me to share how I feel, especially the negative stuff that I feel and I don't really like to talk about because it just brings me down if I talk about it. So it's also therapeutic to me to be a
But
songwriter.
it's your processing. But sometimes we also benefit from other people's processing. Sometimes you hear something that give you a perspective on your own life, and that also can be very powerful. There's certain
Hmm.
songs just have this power of uplifting you when you need to be uplifted, or sometimes when they're dealing with difficult subjects or they're sad. I don't know, there's catharsis in that too. I don't know why, but sometimes you listen to a really sad song and it kind of makes you tear up, and then for some reason that does something therapeutic to you. I mean, it's a very powerful medium in the listening to it, the absorbing it, but also creating it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't imagine just listening. Sometimes because my sister just listens to music, and like some of my friends just listen, and I'm like, what is that like to just listen and you don't make music and you just get to experience it? I can't imagine.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I mean, it depends on who you are, but like, there's people who are so passionate about music. There's people who travel the world to see artists play that they love. I mean, I think everything is valid. I think making music is more about like it's not for everybody. It can be a very hard experience, and plus, it takes so much work to be good at it, which is what a lot
Hmm.
of people don't realize. Every aspect of the music business, from being a songwriter to being a singer to being a mix engineer to being a mastering engineer to being a great musician, to everything takes so many hours and so much
Hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears. That's not for everybody. Other people, they have other priorities in their lives, but the music's there for everybody. The actual listening's there for everybody. And that's why you can have songs that stream 2 billion
Hmm.
because they're powerful.
Yeah.
And people keep going back to them because they do something powerful for a lot of people. And I think that there's a lot of healing power in that. And I also think there's a lot of like life enhancement in it. And I think it's part of the process. It's also a way that we deal with, you were saying like you feel uncomfortable talking about negative things. I think a lot of us feel that way, or we're taught like don't say negative things. And this is what's so interesting about Generation Z. The latest generation is they love talking about trauma and things that have happened to them in a way that a lot of other generations weren't as open about. And
Mm.
it's like watching the healthiest generation grow up.
Hmm.
You're like, oh my God, they're 16-year-olds are actually talking about how hard it is to be 16. Whereas before, if you talked about it, you just get beat up and they'd make it even harder. It's a deep subject, but on the other hand, you can't deny the power of music and you can't deny how personal it is and how someone can absolutely love one artist and someone else can hate that artist and those kinds of powerful connections. Like someone said to me, like the worst thing to be is bland.
Hmm.
Like people should
Hmm.
either love you or hate you or like have a strong feeling or strong reaction to you. And I'm
Yeah.
a little bit like, yeah, it's not for everybody, but when it is for you, when you put on a favorite song, I mean, it is very powerful. Like Ginger, what's like one song that you love? Not the one that you wrote, but something in your iPhone or whatever, however you listen to music.
I only recently started listening to Stick Season by Noah Khan. Like I'm super late with everything. I think it's the song Stick Season where I'm just like, that is a great song. Great song.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
A lot of other people think it's a great song too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
it's
It's good
clear.
storytelling and it feels very
Yeah.
legit. It feels
Hmm.
very legit. Like it feels like Noah. He wrote it with Grape Simon, but it feels very Noah-esque.
Very
It
genuine.
has yeah, I've worked with Noah and he's a nervous guy and he's what he says he is, he is. I've
Hmm.
known him for a long time. And I think it's a great song, but I think there's a lot of, it's funny. I like that song, but then I also like Sabrina Carpenter's, Espresso just because it's silly. It's a
Hmm.
fun
Mm.
song.
Yeah.
And, and there's different aspects of songs. I mean, I don't think that song would stick with me, but you hear it now and you're like, all right. Yeah, that's pretty silly, and it's got its own place in the vernacular. I think what we experience as listeners is very powerful. I think what we do as artists can be very powerful for us, and then hopefully, if we really follow our own muse and our own voice, our inner voice, and we don't try to sell ourselves short, we can also make music that can really reach a lot of people. I've seen it done, and it's always the goal is you want to make stuff that really moves you, but it's nice when other people react as well.